Have you ever felt like a part of you has quietly died? Not in body, but in spirit. Like something within you, once full of dreams, full of life, has slowly turned silent, dry, and forgotten. Perhaps it was a dream that never came true, a friendship that faded, or a purpose that once burned so bright, but has now become only ashes of what it used to be. We all go through seasons like this, when the world around us keeps moving, yet we stand still, feeling like a withered branch in the middle of a storm. People pass by and no longer notice the spark we once carried. We begin to wonder, is this how it ends? Is this all there is left of me? But maybe the story isn't over yet, because somewhere beneath the surface, even in the driest soil, roots remember how to hold on. Even in silence, life waits for one more chance to rise. Stay with me till the end, because the story of a single withered tree might remind you that your own heart, too, can bloom again, even after everything seems lost. There once stood a tree at the edge of a quiet village, old, tall, and proud. It had shaded generations of children who played beneath its branches and offered rest to weary travelers passing by dusty roads. But now, it stood alone in a barren field. The rains had stopped years ago, and the river that once fed the land had turned into a bed of cracked earth. The villagers called it the dead tree. Its branches were nothing more than brittle bones stretched against the sky. No bird dared to land, no leaf dared to return. Each day people walked by, shaking their heads and whispering, "It's useless now. Time has taken it." But deep within the silence of that dying wood, something still lingered. Not strength, not beauty, but memory. The tree remembered what it once felt like to be alive, to feel rain touching its bark, to hear the wind singing through its leaves. That memory hurt, yet it also kept the tree from giving up entirely. Sometimes, when the evening breeze brushed against its hollow trunk, it would whisper a prayer to the empty sky. If only the rain would come again, just once more. Days turned to months, and months into years. The tree grew older, quieter, its roots clutching dry soil that no longer cared to give. Yet somewhere beneath its sorrow, a question began to bloom. Is it possible for something lost to live again? The answer was waiting, carried by a pair of weary footsteps approaching from the distance. One late afternoon, when the sun hung low and the wind carried dust instead of scent, an old woodcutter wandered toward the field. His back was bent from years of labor, his hands rough and scarred. In his youth, he had often rested under that very tree, laying his tools down while the branches shielded him from the heat. Now, seeing it withered and hollow, he stood in silence for a long time. The villagers had told him to chop it down, to use its wood before it decayed completely. Yet as he looked at its lifeless trunk, he could not lift his axe. Something in that stillness felt sacred, as though the tree was not dead, only sleeping. He sat beneath it, the same way he had done decades ago. "You were once the pride of this land," he murmured softly. "Now they call you useless." But I don't believe that he pressed his hand to the cracked bark, whispering as if speaking to a friend. Even when no one believes in you, the roots still remember how to drink. That night, he dug a narrow trench around the tree's base, guiding what little water remained from a distant well. He visited every few days, pouring just a handful of water, talking as though the tree could hear. The villagers laughed. "The old man has gone mad," they said, "talking to a corpse of wood." But he didn't stop, for in his heart, he knew, sometimes Faith is not about seeing life, but about believing it's still there beneath the surface. And though the sky remained empty, the tree began to feel something stir, not in its branches, but in its roots. Days turned into weeks, and still the skies refused to open. The old woodcutter kept coming, carrying his small bucket of water, his movements slow but steady. The villagers laughed as he passed through the dusty paths. "Why waste your strength on a ghost of a tree?" they jeered. "The earth has forgotten it. Let it go." But he said nothing. He simply poured another handful of water at the roots and whispered the same words over and over. "You're not finished yet." The tree heard him. Though it could no longer speak or move, it felt every word like drops of dew upon its soul. It wanted to believe him, but the pain of emptiness was deep. Each night, the wind howled like a reminder of everything it had lost. It had once been full of life, its leaves dancing under the rain, its roots drinking deeply from the river that once sang nearby. Now it felt only the taste of dust. "I can't," the tree whispered into the silence. "I can't bloom again." But the old man still came. One morning, the sky grew darker than usual. A heaviness hung in the air. The birds flew lower, and a strange stillness covered the land. The woodcutter looked up and smiled. "It's coming," he said softly. And then, for the first time in years, it rained. It wasn't a storm, no thunder, no lightning, just a steady, patient rain, as if heaven itself had remembered the forgotten field. Drop by drop, the water sank into the cracked earth, finding its way to the roots buried deep below. The tree trembled. The dry soil that had imprisoned its roots began to soften. At first it was pain, the ache of waking after a long sleep. The roots drank timidly, afraid it would end too soon. But the rain kept falling. Hours passed. The air smelled of earth again. The villagers came out of their homes, laughing and dancing in the rain. None of them looked toward the tree. But if they had, they might have seen something strange. A single pulse of green shimmered under the bark, faint like a heartbeat returning after silence. Then another, and another. By morning, when the sky cleared and the earth glistened, a thin mist rose from the roots. The tree stood still, exhausted yet alive. One of its branches, the one nearest the woodcutter's trench, had darkened, not from decay, but from the first sign of life. The old man came, dripping wet, his clothes clinging to his frail body. He looked at the tree and smiled. "See," he whispered, his voice trembling. "You just needed a little more time." The tree wanted to weep, if trees could weep. It felt warmth spreading upward, slowly, painfully, beautifully. No one else noticed. The villagers went on with their day. The world returned to its noise. But beneath that quiet field, a miracle was taking root. One that spoke of endurance, of unseen faith, of second chances born in silence. When dawn arrived, the world seemed new, soft, washed, reborn. The air was cool, the sky painted in shades of pale gold. The woodcutter came as always, though this morning his step was lighter. As he approached the tree, something caught his eye. Something small, fragile, and almost impossible. There, on one of the lower branches, a single bud had appeared. Tiny, trembling, but real. He froze for a moment, his breath caught in wonder. Slowly, he reached out, afraid that even his shadow might break the miracle. "You did it," he whispered, eyes glistening. "You remembered." The bud opened that afternoon. One bloom, delicate and faintly pink, glowing softly against the old gray bark. It wasn't as lush as the flowers that once covered the tree long ago, but it was something more, a bloom born not of youth, but of endurance. The villagers gathered, speechless. "How?" they murmured. "We thought it was dead." The woodcutter only smiled. "It lived because it believed," he said. "Even the smallest faith can wake what seems forever lost." The tree stood in silence, letting the wind carry its petals into the air. Inside, it felt no pride, only peace. It understood now. Life's beauty does not lie in how many times you bloom, but in the courage to bloom again after everything has fallen apart. And so, the tree whispered to the wind, "Hope doesn't die when the world grows dry. It only sleeps, waiting for the gentle rain of faith." In life, too, we all go through seasons of drought, times when nothing seems to grow, when dreams wither and love fades. We call ourselves broken, but the truth is, we are only waiting. The roots of our spirit are stronger than we think. Sometimes, what feels like the end is simply the soil preparing for a second spring. The seasons changed once more. The rains came and went, and the withered tree, though scarred and uneven, stood tall again. It did not bloom as before. Its branches were fewer, its colors softer, but there was something sacred about its quiet presence. Travelers began to stop under its shade again, unaware of the story it carried within its roots. The woodcutter, now older and slower, still came to visit. He would sit beneath the tree and close his eyes, listening to the whisper of leaves above him. The same tree that once stood silent in despair. Sometimes he would smile and say, "You see, old friend, you were never truly dead. You were only waiting for your moment to return." At sunset, the golden light would filter through the petals, painting the ground in gentle hues. The tree's blossoms were not many, but they were radiant, as if each one held a story of pain transformed into grace. And perhaps that is the secret of all life, that beauty is never lost, only buried, waiting for the right season to rise again. So if your heart feels barren, if your dreams seem forgotten, remember the withered tree. Remember that even after the longest silence, even after years of emptiness, something within you still knows how to reach for the light. Your second bloom may not come quickly. It may not look like it did before. But when it comes, it will be enough. Because every new blossom, no matter how small, is proof that life and hope always find their way back. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need a reminder that hope never truly dies. Maybe a friend who feels lost, or someone standing in their own season of silence. Let this story be the gentle rain they've been waiting for. And if you believe that even the smallest story can plant the deepest seed, then stay with us. Subscribe, like, and join our journey of inspiring tales each week. Because somewhere, someone needs to remember, even the most withered heart can bloom again.